One of the best things about the internet is the people you meet and the things you can learn. One of the worst things about the internet is the people you meet and the things you can learn. My name's Cara. I'm your host for Tuesdays on the Pagan Perspective, and this week we're talking about using languages in our path. This topic comes with a bit of a story. I hope that she won't mind my saying so, but it was sort of inspired by Tatiana, one of our team members, whose first language is not English. So she has to do a lot of extra work when she prepares her videos to be done in the spoken English language. And this wasn't something that all of us had really noticed until she mentioned that she scripts all of her videos so that she can make sure that she gets the English correct. Brendan then posed this question to the rest of us, wondering if any of the rest of us speak languages other than English, and if we incorporate those into our path work at all. So the thing with language for me, just as far as spoken language and people who do not speak English as their first language being so good with knowing the English language, and then a lot of people who English is our first language not really being super familiar with other languages, the thing about that for me on the internet is that so many people for whom English is their second language are really good at written English. So unless they say something, I never know that it's not their first language. And that has caused some confusion in some comments at times. I tend to speak really quickly. And in my regular everyday life, I have had some people use that against me as an insult, telling me that I talk too fast, that I talk too much, anything like that. So one of the best ways that some of us like to deal with insults or things that we perceive as insults from people, especially strangers on the internet, people who don't really know us that well, is maybe to play it off with some humor. So a while ago, someone wrote what I perceived as a really nasty comment about the way that I talk and how fast I talk, and I replied with something joking. I just said something like, haha, gotta wake your brain up and keep up, and I talk fast, we move fast, whatever. I thought I was just being funny, and this person came back with a reply that they thought I was being really nasty because English is not their first language. So for them, understanding someone who speaks as quickly as I do was very difficult, and their perception was that I was making it difficult for people whose first language is not English to understand me, and they thought I was blowing them off by the joke that I made. But this person's written English in their comments was perfect. I saw no problems with it whatsoever, so I would never have known that English was not their first language, and it's not something that I think of automatically. Another side of that is that Tatiana, since English is her second language, or at least not her first language, I don't know how many she speaks, has gotten comments from people on the channel before making fun of how slowly she speaks and how clearly she speaks. And she does that because English is not her first language. Where I can speak English at, 2,000 words a second, it takes her a little longer to make sure that she's doing it correctly and saying what she means to say. Now, if you watch Modern Family, Gloria has actually commented on this as well. She's talked about, in one episode, she talked about how in English, sometimes she doesn't know the word for what she wants to say, and it feels limiting, and she can't express herself in English the same way that she can in Spanish, which is her first language. And, in her first language, she's a genius, but in her second, third, whatever other languages, you don't have that grasp on vocabulary. So, all of that being said, I do speak a little bit of French. Je parle français un peu. I studied French in high school, in middle school and high school, and I was really into it, and I even studied one-on-one with my teacher. We studied AP French one-on-one, because my school didn't offer AP language courses, which is advanced placement, for anyone who may not know what AP stands for. And I took the SAT 2 subject test in French, which is like an extra SAT-related test that is entirely in the French language. And I didn't get a great score on it, but I got the same score on it that I got help with my professor on the practice test, with her helping me, I got the same score on my own on the real test. And I thought that was pretty good because I've never taken an entire test in a language that is not my first. However, all that being said, I do not have enough of a grasp on the French language to be fluent. I do not know all the vocabulary. If I tried to talk about half of the stuff that I talk about on here in French, I would have absolutely no idea what to say. There are so many limitations in my grasp of that language. In English, I could tell you anything I wanted to say. In French, I would struggle, and I would be able to tell you some basic things about my family and my favorite color and things like that. But, you know, it's been 8 years since I formally studied French at all, because it wasn't available to me in college. That's another story. That I have forgotten a lot of the names of numbers. There's just a lot of vocabulary words that I never learned at all. So I don't use French in my path, because even though I speak a little bit of it, I don't know nearly enough to actually use it for the things that I would be trying to say. And if I felt the need to use it, I would probably be able to sit down and write something out, translate something ahead of time, and then read it. But to just sit there and talk in French, no, I would not be able to use that for my path at all. There are so many words that are related to my path and my practice that I don't know. I have used small phrases of Italian and Gaelic in my practice because that's my heritage. And I don't speak either of those languages even semi-fluently, but I know certain phrases from them, from my ancestry. So especially when I do any ancestor work, I like to toss in some phrases in Italian and some phrases in Gaelic that I know. And I'm lucky to have been blessed with a mother who gave me a name that is a word in multiple languages. Cara is actually Italian, Gaelic, Spanish. It's very close to a word in Greek. It's a word in many other languages. So there are certain things that I use, but I don't speak any other language fluently. So anyone who does is really, you know, I may not always know it because your English may be so good in your comments that I have no idea that it's not your first language. And that's great. I mean, that's what you're going for, and I don't even notice it. Some of the times I do. Some people's grammar is off and they say, you know, I'm sorry, this is my second language or whatever, and I can tell. But many of you I can't tell at all. And that just reminds me how far behind I am in certain things, because you would be able to tell that I do not know how to speak French or Italian or anything like that. So it's actually funny that this comes up now, because when I get bored, I often check out the Google Play Store on my smartphone and I look for new apps to download and things to try. I don't really have any straight up games on my phone except Nico Atsume. Everything else that I have on my phone is something kind of educational or something useful, or like photo editing things, which I don't consider games. So recently I downloaded the Duolingo app, which is a language learning app that's completely free, and it's online too. Like, there's a regular website. I wish that I were getting sponsored for saying this, but it's a free website. And I know some of you use it as well. So I did recently start using that to refresh my French and also to start learning Italian, and then other things from there. But starting with those two. French because I already know quite a bit of it, and Italian because it's my main part of my family's heritage, and my grandmother, when she can remember it, speaks Italian. If it's a language that you already know a little bit, you can take a placement test. So I took the placement test for French, and it put me in level 8, which the app considers to be 48% fluent. So according to this app, when I placed, I was almost halfway fluent in the French language. But let me tell you, when I'm going through these exercises and I'm doing these strengthening skills things where they don't give you the hints and they don't tell you anything, and you just have to choose like the multiple choice and translate what you hear and speak things, and you know, there are a lot of words that I don't know. I did not know the word for string. I did not know the word for, oh gosh, I can't even remember it now. But I remember thinking that I knew it, and it was something totally different. So 48% fluent is not enough. Let me just say it's not. So it's a really interesting experience. just going through that. So we talked about this a little bit in our group, our team member group for the collab, and I was surprised to find that several other people on the collab do speak other languages. So I think you'll enjoy the videos this week, hearing from everybody else about the languages that they do speak enough to potentially use in their path or in their practice, in ritual or whatever. But I don't know enough of anything to use it in my path. So I'd also really like to learn sign language a little bit more than I know certain phrases, and that's about it, but I would love to be able to understand more of multiple languages, and maybe I'll get closer to that as time goes on. So thank you very much for watching. Thank you, Brendan, for the topic. Thank you, Tatiana, for inspiring it. Thank you to all of you for watching and sharing and all of that, and I will see you next week, and I'll also see you on my personal channel, KeatWitch772, sometime. Alright, have a good one. Until next time, don't forget to be awesome, blessed be, and goodbye. Arrivederci. Ciao.